And welcome back to Conservative News Channel on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. Today I have some unexpected news out of Pittsburgh, where we have a shooter. He is a self-professed Nazi. His name is Robert Bowers, and he is a Trump hater, lifelong Democrat. Interesting how the self-professed Nazi is probably going to be talked about constantly on the news, but most likely they're going to leave out the he's a Democrat part. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not really what this video is about. I feel sorry for the people in Pittsburgh. It's unfortunate so many had to die at the hands of such a cretin. But what the video is about is how the left-wing media bias turned on Trump based on the mega bomber, but I don't think they're going to turn on the Democratic Party based on the Nazi today. Also, I have proof of that. I'm going to show you a clip talking about the shooting in Washington where 5 people were shot, Scalise being one of them. I'm also going to show you Nancy Pelosi's response to the hatred coming from the left is what caused it. Let's take a look at that now.
Tyson Foods, who sometimes practices with the team. House Speaker Paul Ryan also earlier today identified 2 members of the Capitol Police who were injured, Crystal Greiner and David Bailey. 2 of the Capitol Hill police officers were only there because Majority Whip Scalise has a security detail. Had he and therefore those 2 officers not been there, we could very well right now be talking about a much worse tragedy. Federal law enforcement sources identified the shooter earlier today, a 66-year-old James Hodgkinson from Belleville, Illinois, which is outside St. Louis, Missouri, though his wife did tell ABC News earlier today that her husband had been living in Alexandria, Virginia for the last 2 months. The shooter's social media footprint and letters to the editor that he wrote to his hometown paper make clear his strong support for Senator Bernie Sanders and his loathing of the Republican Party. He cursed President Trump, labeled the president a traitor, and called for his destruction in several Facebook posts. The shooter died from his injuries after the shootout with Capitol Police, news that we first were told by President Trump himself, who had a somber and reflective message for the nation.
We may have our differences, but we do well in times like these to remember that everyone who serves in our nation's capital is here because, above all, they love our country. We can all agree that we are blessed to be Americans, that our children deserve to grow up in a nation of safety and peace, and that we are strongest when we are unified and when we work together for the common good.
We have heard comments from Republicans, including Congress, about vitriolic rhetoric from the left being in some way to blame.
Well, I think that your question is an excellent one, and I think that the comments made by my Republican colleagues are outrageous, beneath the dignity of the job that they hold, beneath the dignity of the respect that we would like Congress to command. How dare they say such a thing? How dare they? So this sick individual does something despicable, and it was horrible what he did, hateful. But for them to all of a sudden be sanctimonious as if they never seen such a thing before.
As you can see, based on the clips, there was no rush to suggest that the shooter, even though he was a supporter of Sanders, was in any way tied to Sanders. It's that doublespeak that the media does in defense of liberals, regardless how bad they are or what they do. Now what I want to show you is a real short clip talking about a riot from Antifa, and then I want to show you CNN's response to the violence. I think you'll quickly see that there is no parallel to what's going on now with the mega bomber.
Once again, Antifa members attacked peaceful demonstrators.
And once again, they came to fight, dressed in black, wearing masks, and armed with smoke bombs, shields, and pepper spray. Take a look.
But I argue to you tonight, all punches are not equal morally. In the eyes of the law, yes. But in the eyes of good and evil, here's the argument. If you're a punk who comes to start trouble in a mask and hurt people, you're not about any virtuous cause. You're just somebody who's going to be held to the standard of doing something wrong. But when someone comes to call out bigots and it gets hot, even physical, are they equally wrong as the bigot they are fighting? I argue no. Fighting against hate matters. Now, how you fight matters too. There's no question about that. But drawing a moral equivalency between those espousing hate and those fighting it because they both resort to violence emboldens hate, legitimizes hateful belief, and elevates what should be stamped out. Think about it. Civil rights activists, were they the same morally as the bigots, as the racists with whom they exchanged blows? Are people who go to war against an evil regime on the same moral ground as those they seek to stop from oppressing the weak? How you disagree matters. We should be our best. But I am arguing that Trump was wrong to create a moral equivalency between bigots and those who oppose them, making them equal wrongs. Those hateful few who take solace and encouragement from the president's efforts, my message to you is simple. Be aware there are many more of us who see you as unequal, as less than, and you will be opposed at every turn because what you are about is wrong, and fighting you is right.
Can you believe that? Defending Antifa's violence as though it was moral and righteous, and yet suggesting anything to do with the right is diseased, and basically he's saying that the right wing needs to be taken out. Patriot prayer. It's too bad more people in America don't pray. Maybe we'd have a lot less violence. But what this really all points out is that the media is no longer anything but a propaganda machine for the left. Every time there's a shooter and it's a Democrat, you never get to hear about the fact that it was a Democrat. Anytime there's a shooter and it's a Republican, you're going to hear 1,000 times the name Republican. Look at the way politicians, when they're charged with crimes, if it's a Democrat rep in the House of Representatives, they just put Representative XYZ, thinking that you'll think that the representative means Republican. On the other hand, if it's a Republican that's indicted, it's Republican, 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 Republican. There is no fairness in the media. It's all a propaganda machine. More and more people need to wake up to that. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. Before you go, I hope you'll take the time to like and subscribe. And don't forget to share. We are trying to grow. And we'll see you in the next video.